Solutions New England 21-Day Racial Equity Challenge. 10 years ago, Food Solutions New England, also known as FSNE, reached out to Dr. Eddie Moore, Debbie Irving, and Dr. Marguerite Pennick-Picks and said, you know, you've done this wonderful racial equity challenge. Is it possible we build on that format and use a food system lens? And they ever so graciously gave us their blessing. And since that time, we've had people from each of our 50 states, from Canada, from 40 other countries who have participated in this online learning journey. If you're just joining us, it'd be fun to see who's here. Please put your name in the chat and tell us where you're coming from. Next slide, please. As we start today, we at Food Solutions New England want to acknowledge that the land that we are on, calling New England, is still home to the Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, Maliset, Micmac, Abenaki, Mohegan, Wampanoag, Pequot, Nimpec, Massachusett, Niantic, Pocono, Pennacook, and Narragansett people, among many others. FSNE honors and respects the many Indigenous peoples connected to this territory on which we physically gather. We encourage you to learn more about the people that are in your lands and where you're gathering from. So even though we might be gathering remotely, our Zoom is somewhere. As we begin this webinar, we'll take a minute to just reflect upon what does the me to we transforming and growing an equitable food system. And really, if we look at it, what we're trying to say is that it is through structural change that really begins with a deep look inwards at the me, and then collaborating, engaging, and building community of the we, that we can collectively transform and grow a more equitable and just world. At this time, our thoughts are with the people who are experiencing war and racism that are leading to extensive loss of life, destroyed communities, and the inability to meet critical food and medical needs. Now more than ever, as we continue to address persistent racism, a lingering pandemic that disproportionately impacts communities of color and political systems that divide rather than unite, we commit to transformational, structural, and systems changes that move racial equity, concepts, and justice from concepts into lived realities. We invite you to find ways to reflect, and as always, materials for the 21 days are on our site well beyond the challenge, so feel free to enter back and join in as you can. As you can see, next slide, as people are signing in, they are coming from Worcester, they're coming from Rhode Island. We have a lot of people, so if we that are here, we encourage you to join in with your best self. We'll introduce the hosts next and learn about what's motivating our FSNE host as they engage in the challenge and designing the challenge once again. So next slide.
Oh,
all right, Karen, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this brand new day. I'm joining you from Boston today, and I am the principal of CAS Consulting based in Boston, providing mission-based consulting with advocacy, resource matching, equity at the core. I've been a part of FSNE's network for more than 12 years, serving as a steering committee member, a network team member, as a Massachusetts coordinating ambassador where we're really looking at the Food Solutions New England's New England vision, going into the communities and bringing the communities both in on this journey, on this commitment to transformation in our food system. As a Thomas Haas Professor in Sustainable Food Systems at University of New Hampshire, with a really tenacious faculty and staff, I am bringing the FSNE Challenge to the campus and weaving it throughout the work and the learnings that are going on at that place. For this challenge, this FSNE Challenge, I serve as the challenge co-chair with Curtis Ogden of Interaction Institute for Social Change, working together for the past 10 years with FSNE Network members and other amazing members of the planning team. And I'm so thrilled and honored that you have joined us to delve deeper into the FSNE Challenge and to becoming something different.
Well, Karen, I cannot thank you enough for the ongoing leadership you've provided to the challenge and continue to do. And now we will introduce Alex.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? I'm trying out a new computer. So my name
Yes.
is Alex Locker-the-Moth. I use he, him pronouns. I'm calling from my work and home in Keene, New Hampshire. I have been participating in the 21-day Racial Equity Challenge for the past 2 years, and this is my first year as part of the Backbone or planning team. I'm currently the Pantry and Gleaning Program Coordinator at the Community Kitchen, which is a 40-year-old food security and justice organization that provides the equivalent to over 330,000 pantry and prepared meals in the Monadnock region of New Hampshire annually. I began volunteering with the kitchen in high school, and I've spent my adult education, early career working to address systemic racism, classism, and other intersectional inequities by empowering people to advocate for transformative societal change. And the challenge has been instrumental into integrating a racial justice lens into my organization's food justice and sovereignty work in our region. So glad to be here.
And Alex, we've been delighted to have you part of the planning team. It's been amazing. And thank you for your volunteerism and participating. Shane.
Thanks, Joanne. Hi, everybody. My name is Shane Rogers. I use he, him pronouns. I'm calling in today from my home in Milton, Vermont. I have been participating in the FSNE 21-day Racial Equity Challenge over the past 6 years, and I currently am selling my labor as the Program and Communication Director at Food Solutions New England, behind the scenes to make this go. I'm also a community organizer, wild food enthusiast, and curling enthusiast. Throughout all my work, I've been working to build a more inclusive and equitable food system and community through effective narrative building and collective communications. I'm pleased to be here. Thanks so much.
Yes, and Shane is the man to see if you have technical difficulties, not me. So my name is Joanne Burke, and I'm calling in today from Southern Maine. I was a UNH professor in the Department of Nutrition and Food Systems, and also part of the UNH Sustainability team, and a member of the Food Solutions team that authored a New England Food Vision, and part of the initial planning team, and continue to work on our Racial Equity Habit Building Challenge from FSNE. I serve on the board of New Hampshire Hunger Solutions and on the climate food systems work of the Society for Nutrition Ed and Behavior. So since this initial drafting and launching of the FSNE Challenge, I just have valued so much to be in community with others, in learning from and growing to build authentic commitments to systematically address racism and using a food system lens and beyond. Transforming and growing a more equitable food system isn't going to happen by wishing. We know it's only through collective action and deep commitment that a new food future for ourselves and our children, our world, is indeed possible. And later in the webinar, next slide, please. I will have the opportunity, or you will have the opportunity to hear directly from Debbie Irving, a racial justice educator and author of Waking Up White, and then also Dr. Eddie Moore, very much involved with the leadership of the White Privilege Conference and setting up the Privilege Institute. So these two individuals were the ones, and Margaret Pennant Parks, who said to FSNE, take that backbone, take that work we have done and adjust to the racial equity lens. And we are forever, ever grateful. So thank you, Eddie and Debbie, and we look forward to later in this program hearing directly from you and thinking of questions of our participants. Thank you. Next slide, Karen, if you can give us some background on our Food Solutions New England.
Oh, absolutely. Always, always a pleasure and an honor. And before I do that, I do also have to thank Debbie and Dr. Eddie for opening that door for us and for welcoming us in that way, that we've been on this journey together. I can't believe it's been 10 years. So again, heartfelt, love felt, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So many of you have been seeing things from Food Solutions New England. I hope you're receiving our newsletters that Shane crafts for us, and you see the updates on policy work and vision work that we're doing across the region. And this is just a snapshot of who we are. We are a regional collaborative network of individuals and organizations, and we're working across the sectors. So some of you may be coming from policy work, government work, you're coming from health and nutrition. Yes, food is all part of that, affordability of everything. When we think of housing, we think of education, food waste, soil health, all those things are intersecting when we think about the food system in which we are in. Fishermen, farmers, and we're all eaters in this system. The food system that we are working in, we're organizing around it with the support of really thinking about the emergence of sustainability of a food system in New England. And FSNE is always thinking about the driving forward with healthy food for all, racial equity and justice, sustainability, with a particular focus on farming and fishing. And yes, the healthy and thriving communities in which we live, play, and learn. The network was launched in 2010 in the spirit, in response to a shared sense of greater connectivity and trust and deeper collaboration and innovation that was needed around food systems. Efforts around, again, transforming. Transforming requires us all to bring our knowledge, our skills, our identities, our geographies together to, and I say amplify and infuse what we need from each other, what we need to lean into, what we need to co-create. University of New Hampshire Sustainability Institute initiated that planning process to convene, really, for us to have a sustainable way of doing our work together and making things happen together for, again, feeding and serving us all. And so the anchor continuing with the New England Food Vision 50 by 60, we're thinking about 50% of our food would be grown, harvested, entrepreneured, processed, all of that by 2060. And we're working on it. We're working on it collectively and collaboratively. We're working on it. And we really are looking at what you're seeing now as a pathway to that vision. It shows us in a space of democratic empowerment where, yes, we're all looking to mobilize every eater in this system, in this work, in these communities, to be able to bring their power, their privilege, and their knowledge and their experience all together for increased, you could call it civic engagement, but increased movement, again, towards a food system that feeds and serves us all. We want certainly be thinking about narratives and the new food story, where that story is all our stories, with all of our culture, all of our diversity in our ways of being and our ethnicity, bringing all that, the ways we grow, the way we cook, the way we build our food system. just bringing that all together. That new story becomes our story. We're also looking at sustainable economy because we want to make sure that those who are growing are sustained, that they're able to make a living, make a prosperous life for themselves and for their families as they're intentionally, very creatively, very caringly planting seeds and harvesting them to bring us what we see on our tables, what we buy at a grocery store, what we buy at our farmers markets, what we buy at our cooperatives, but what we bring to our table. And all this is thinking about how do we do this work? How do we prosper? How do we, the livable wages, the meaningful livelihoods, how do we weave all that in? Because that's all of who we are, and making sure that we are honoring that, lifting that up, and celebrating that. So when you see the pathway there, it's, I love it because it has different ways of getting there. This not linear. It starts at sustainable economy, and then you walk or you run or you skateboard, right, over to the democratic empowerment, or you leave the greenery of the democratic empowerment and you swim over. You swim over to the business case. And then there's the intersectionality, it just keeps going with the vision and engaging in every part of it, contributing to every part of it, demonstrating the leaning in and leaning on, the interdependence, the intersection, and the key of shared learning, shared values, trust. All those things are, and I would say, non-negotiably required for us to build this food system that will feed and serve us all. So we continue to do this and build these strategies together, and creating new collaborations and stronger collaborations around racial equity and what it means when we're living and being and breathing that as part of the way we move through the world. So that's a snapshot of FSNE and our commitment to racial equity as we continue to be solutionary and continue to take action from our heart, head to action, and weaving and honoring that all the way through. So that's a
Thank you.
snapshot, a snapshot.
Oh, thank you, Karen, that for providing next slide, that very rich context of distilling the ever-connected way our systems work and don't work and why we need to be in this space. So you'll see our goals today. We're gonna, we're looking at why the challenge, clarifying the, how does this challenge work, or reviewing it for those of you who are repeat engagers, which is fun to see, looking at intersectionality and how everything is so interconnected, and celebrating our commitment to moving forward. So in the next slide, we'll look a little bit of how we're going to do this with the time remaining, and we'll just go over why was it created, how it's working. We'll be able to hear some perspectives from the field, explore our own motivations, and some question and answer time. So Alex, if you can please get us started on providing some of that why the equity challenge, and thank you very much for that, Alex.
Happy to. Thanks, Joanne. Thanks, Karen. So the why we're focused on racial equity in our food system, well, we know that the food system was built upon inequity. We know that food systems intersect with just about every other issue that one can imagine relevant to a healthy life, including immigration, civil rights, the environment, housing, medical care, education, the list goes on. So the food system's transformation can beautifully represent multiple opportunities for changing the course of our shared history. And this is particularly important given that the past couple of years have continued to lay bare the stark realities of inequity in our country, from the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, and countless Black Americans, to the sustained violence against the Asian American Pacific Islander community, violent and sustained Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and to continue in the continued health disparities and staggering rates of food insecurity felt more and more exclusively by Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And unfortunately, the list goes on. And that's why we launched this 10th annual Racial Equity Challenge, where we're asking to consider what it means to move from me to we in our pursuits of racial justice, and how this concept applies from advocacy to education to everything in between. So these 21 days will ask us to consider how our work and passions in the food system intersect with other systems that we all move through every day, and how our actions and relationships can contribute to building community that is grounded in trust, solidarity, and love. We know that when racial equity is central to transformational food system commitments, we move from thinking to actualizing greater food justice, where we're creating an equitable world where everyone, regardless of race or ethnicity, has dignified access to what they need to thrive and live healthy, quality lives. And they are granted the sovereignty and power to make decisions that are best for themselves and for their communities. But given that the history of our food system is defined by policies, practices, values, and beliefs that have benefited some and excluded, marginalized, disenfranchised, and demoralized many others, there's certainly a lot of work to do. But by embracing commitments to structural food system transformation and in turn intersectional societal change, by working with intention and building deep, authentic relationships, by moving from me to we all have an opportunity in our own slice of life to disrupt existing frameworks and create conditions for a food system that promotes population and planetary health for all. So why the challenge? Among our FSNE network, we wanted to dig deeper to build skill and will around undoing racism and inequities and practicing intentional change. We found Dr. Eddie Moore, Dr. Marguerite Pennick Parks, and Debbie Irving and their work, and we are so grateful for how it has influenced this challenge over the years. Historically, it has been proposed that to change any habit, one must dedicate or commit 21 days. There is no magic number in 21. It is a focused and manageable way to formally commit to exploring our habits of thinking and acting. And why now? And we can't ignore that the pervasive inequities exist. And while the issues are certainly daunting, we all have a role to play in upending them and creating a more just and equitable future. The 21-day challenge is one step forward in that work, and I look forward to taking it together. Now more than ever, our approach needs to recognize and honor the intersectional oppression that Black and Brown people face, and to take action that fosters an interdependent, community-based approach to building a more equitable and sustainable society and world.
Thank you so much, Alex. I mean, it really calls us forward to be engaged in all of our communities and making a true difference. So, Shane, if you could do the first poll, we've been talking a bit. So let's see who's with us today. So where do you live is the first question. And secondly, you're going to answer your primary area of work or studies or volunteerism. And then how many times you've participated in the challenge. So if you can enter those responses, we'll start seeing those numbers come in. And Shane, someone lost it. If you can share it again, that would be great. And for those that we just got a note while you're answering, someone has to leave for work, we will have this recorded. So no worries. We'll miss you, but you can listen to the rest. And we appreciate your participating as you are possible. All right, look at this. So we've got food service, we've got food systems planning, government, health, nutrition, natural resources, policy, research. So we're coming from a lot of different areas, and I really think it's speaking to that intersectional nature of the work that we're so actively engaged in. And there's probably some of these you could have checked off multiple boxes, so we don't all fit in one, but it's a nice way to see some of the work that and volunteerism from our participants. And maybe the next answer, okay. All right, so with that, we'll circle back. Shane can send me some updates on that. But anyway, Alex, back to you for walking us through on some of the practical natures of the work.
Sure, happy to come back. So in terms of how the challenge actually works, the very first thing to do is to sign up as individuals or organizations. So first, as individuals, which we recommend that each people sign up individually. You would go to the FSNE website to access the registration link. Please fill it out completely so we can better know who is participating and where you work and engage with food systems. Once you're signed up, you'll receive an email with some questions for pre-work, which include readings, videos, etc. That'll give you all of the tools you need to get the most out of the challenge. FSNE will send the sign up link to all webinar participants, or alternatively, you can go to the FSNE website to sign up. If you want to sign up as an organization, one or two people in the group would sign up and forward the daily prompts to others. Ultimately, this is your and their choice. As you sign up as an organization coordinator, please indicate your role as facilitator and let us know approximately how many from your organization will be participating. And remember that during the sign up, let us know if your organization will be participating broadly. There's an option to identify who the facilitator is during this step. So I think we're on to the next
So the
slide.
next slide.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, Alex, as you finish each one, why don't you just say next to Shane and then you won't be
Sure.
waiting for me.
Yeah, of course.
That's
All
great.
right. So the next slide is obviously about inviting others. So personal invitations, email newsletters, social media is a great way to promote it. People tend to participate things in more if they have a personal connection to the outreach, and use your personal networks because you are going to be an advocate for folks to participate. Now we can go to the next one, Shane. Thank you. So how does it work? So this is an overview of basic participation. So in an email, you will receive a daily prompt. The prompt will be a question to get you to reflect on race in your own life and work, and it'll include a link to a short video, an article or audio file in order to frame your reflection. It'll be framed in the categories of learn, reflect, act, and go deeper. And you can spend 15 or 20 minutes or more than that if you have the time each day to kind of process these materials. There will be time for more reflection on the weekend and to explore other resources on our resource list, which is available on the FSNE website. Remember that it's totally fine to go on your own pace or to choose how much of each day's material you can fit into your schedule. Even if you miss a day completely, there's no problem starting again the next day. And then, same one. Okay. And then we have a category for reflecting, recording, and journaling. So rather than just thinking about each prompt moving on, feel free to capture your thoughts in a journal so you come back to your insights and questions. There's also a resource link, which I referenced earlier, with links to additional videos, blogs, articles, and books to check out. If you've done this challenge before, you can see that there's a mix of new and some repeat foundational materials. So feel free to review. This is an updated list and be sure to check it out. It lives on the FSNE website and is available for download as a PDF. All right, thanks, Shane. And we want to emphasize that the challenge isn't just you taking notes in your room, it's interactive. It's about going from me to we, transforming and growing an equitable food system. You'll find a link to each of the prompts in the daily email that will take you to the online discussion platform. There's space on the discussion platform to share your thoughts with other folks, read what other people have to say, and engage in conversation either in response to each prompt or in an open space for free-form discussion. So practice and share this with your people in your lives. So for hosted discussions, where the goal is to going from a group of learners to a learning group. Lead a discussion during a weekly staff meeting, a community gathering, your home dinner table, or wherever it works for you. FSNE will be hosting facilitated online discussions every Friday during the challenge from noon to 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and registration links will be included in the daily emails you receive. And go to the next slide. Thank you. So tools for groups if you're working as a group. So if you're not sure to where to start with the group discussion, we have created a discussion guide to support you, which you can download from the FSNE website, where you can review for sample discussion group agendas and tips on how to handle difficult conversation topics, because these are not easy topics to talk about. We can go to the next slide. So for participating organizations, and if your group of organizations is participating in the challenge, don't forget to register them as such if you are interested in having them listed. You'll see them listed online and can use this badge on your own website and social media feeds. Hundreds of businesses, nonprofits, agencies, universities, faith groups, and other entities across the country and beyond participate in the Racial Justice Challenge, more than 900 last year. You can go to the next slide. And obviously, the goal is also to connect with others online. We'll be using the hashtag FSNE Equity Challenge on social media to help spread the word. And then for additional info, any technical questions during the challenge can go to FSNE using the contact link, or you can email fsneinfo@unh.edu. And also feel free to use the Q&A function on the screen. If there are any questions, we'll have some time at the end and we can answer them offline as well. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Shane. Next slide. You have packed a lot of information in a short period, and I can see in the chat, yes, these will be, the webinar will be downloaded, and we're happy to answer questions. So I am so excited, honored, and humbled, really, to introduce Debbie Irving and Dr. Eddie Moore. Their work is amazing. It has far reach, and we're here today because of them. And so their work to equity really defines their professional and personal lives. Their vision continues to inform. And so we get to ask some questions today. So first question to each. Debbie, go first for you, but for both of you, can each of you briefly introduce yourselves and then share a little bit about what motivated you to begin this journey to address racial equity, and also to make that circle bigger, to help engage with others to authentically address. So Debbie, if you can give a little bit background and that focus of what motivated you to get into this work. And take yourself off mute, because I know we've asked everyone to mute.
Wouldn't you think by now? Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on today. And thank you, Karen and Curtis, who isn't here, for taking a tool that I had a hand in creating and running with it in the way that you have. There would be no 21-day challenge without Dr. Moore. It's his idea. I came on board to help build out the curriculum. So I think it's too long a story to how I came to this work. And many people may know the story. So I come from a suburban white, obviously, suburban and white is synonymous when you're looking at someone my age, background outside of Boston, and was really bought into that whole, the playing field is level. Everyone has an equal shot in life. If your life isn't working out well, it's your own damn fault. That whole bootstraps kind of narrative. And I had just a massive awakening when I was 48 years old. And Dr. Moore actually was an early mentor of mine and really helped me. What Dr. Moore is so good at, and was the first person I ever saw do this, was he didn't focus on the marginalized experience. He focused as much on that as power and privilege, looking at what happens in the head and hearts of privileged people. What's the impact of that as we see that manifest through systems? What's the underlying ideology? So I really have Dr. Moore to thank for helping me understand that I, as a white person, was not outside of this huge issue. I was smack in the middle of it. There's no way to be outside of a system. So Dr. Moore and I develop a friendship. We present together. We get to know each other, develop a great friendship. And as you do when you work in the same field with someone, you share, does this happen when you do this? How do you handle it when someone asks that? And we had shared our frustration with doing all-day workshops or a keynote, and then someone raising their hand and saying, well, this is terrible, but tell me what to do. Everybody wanted something to do. And Dr. Moore used to say, just do one thing every day, 365 days a year. And one day I was walking along the streets of New York, and I got a phone call from Dr. Moore. He said, Deb, I think 365 days is too much to ask people to do. He said, how about 21? And I think, Dr. Moore, you had just read an article, it was related to sports, about this whole idea of habit building in 21 days. And I think at that point it was still considered to be a scientific fact, but we didn't care. It felt as, I think it was Alex who said it was, it's focused and manageable number of days. And I just thought it was the best idea. And then we built it out, and we never dreamed anyone would take it and build it out further and apply a different lens to it. Because the 21-day challenge that Dr. Moore and I continue to update annually or biannually is meant to cover a broad spectrum of identities and issues and isms. We never dreamed that an organization would take it and put their lens, so the food lens that you all put on it, Blue Cross Blue Shield has put a medical lens on it. So a lot of people have taken this challenge, which basically says, hey, every day for 21 days, go in and do one thing that furthers your understanding of the issue, raises your awareness, gives you some knowledge, and gives you some tools for action. And that might be a short video on one day. It might be an activity on the next. It might be a long article. So we like to mix it up, understanding that the way we learn is through multiple modalities. So 21 days of articles would not have anywhere near the outcome that 21 days of varied activities and talking about it. So I would say that's how I came to this project.
Thank you so much. And
Oh,
Dr.
can I have
Eddy,
one more thing? I have one more
yes,
thing.
yes.
Here, I think this is possibly the biggest thing. The goal of the 21-day challenge is not that on day 22, you go, phew, that's done. The hope is that you say, whoa, I've been introduced to all these new interesting thought leaders and organizations, and I want to reach out and I want to keep following this person on social media. So it's meant to be a major running start, or even just a return to a new running start. Okay, now I'm going on.
Perfect, Debbie. Perfect. Thank you so much for adding that view of wisdom, Dr. Eddy.
Yeah, Deb, that closing point is actually a great segue because when you look at the actual research, it shows it really takes 66 days to really begin to see some behavior shift. So I think the way I talk about the challenge now is really, it's a start. It's a real beginning, a running start, as Deb mentioned, to really beginning to move and significantly shift your behavior pattern, no matter what it is. As Deb mentioned, I mean, the way I came to the work in general, actually, I have to mention, is a divine intervention. I mean, there's no way I should be here today. There's just something greater than me involved in my life's journey. So I have to be an acknowledgement that something greater than me has played a role with me even being alive today, fam. Okay. In my second life, in my second chance at life, I decided not to screw it up again. And so I was actually going to invest my energy in athletics and really coaching and working with primarily young Black males. And in my master's degree program, I went as a graduate assistant to get my master's degree at a small college. And it was there I met a professor that said to me, you're literally wasting all your talent on X's and O's. You would do more. You could do better, have more impact at the university as a college professor than you could as a college football coach. And that was really the beginning of me getting on track to this social justice work where I met another professor in my PhD program. I did my dissertation on Black football players. All that became the groundwork for me starting the White Privilege Conference and also doing my work on diversity, equity, and inclusion across the Midwest and Iowa. And as Deb mentioned, I mean, I've always been wanting to get people to do stuff after the workshop. Every workshop you do, normally somebody's saying, this is great. What do you do next? And I was kind of a hard-nosed teacher, hard-nosed coach. And I felt like America was a hard-nosed place. Like we needed a lot of work and still do, I would argue. So that's where my 365 days, we got to do one thing a day, 365 days in a row. And it just felt overwhelming. In fact, I think it might have been Deb even mentioning me that had me thinking about something else. This just seems like too much, especially after we deliver a talk on white supremacy, white privilege, and all forms of oppression. And so, again, divine inspiration. The 21-day challenge, as y'all know, has had global impact, but I can't say it's solely my idea. Something greater just helped me to really be consuming this article, thinking about, just probably how someone becomes a pro. I don't know what it was to the extent that the article was, but this 21-day research was a part of it. And that's when I reached out to Deb. And the way I describe the challenge, it's a Black idea. I mean, I have to give recognition to the ancestors for bringing that idea to me, but it's a multicultural creation. It's a diverse development, a diverse creation. And Deb has been there with me every step of the way. We picked up our part with Marguerite. And I mean, right now, Karen said it, and definitely want to salute Brother Curtis and Sister Karen for running and never looking back. It's been just amazing to see what they've done with this. But again, I never imagined. I literally just wanted people to do things after their workshop. And it's just amazing to see not only what Food Solution New England has done, but many other organizations. So I just feel truly honored and blessed to be a part of this tool. And I'm just extremely grateful to folks like Curtis and Karen that have picked it up and ran with it, but also grateful to my sister who has always been open to Black genius, Black excellence, always been supporting and always recognizing it's a Black idea. And so, Deb, in front of hundreds of people, sister, I want to say I love you and I appreciate you. And with that, I'll pass it back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it just, the energy and dedication and vision continue. And with that, you've done a lot of workshops, a lot of outreach, worked with a lot of organizations, and we'll be seeing if a few questions for our speakers come in. Be sure you put them in the chat. But one quick question I have is any insight you have for what helps organizations or individuals keep taking those steps? Like, are there insights to, boy, we worked with this group and they really embraced it and ran with it, or gee, this if you do it 21 and done, it's better than not doing it, but that's not really what we want to see. So any insights for moving forward, of what seems to many of our participants today, it's their first time through. I think the idea of doing it together, whether it's with your organization or someone else to help build that skill and will. But Debbie and Eddie, any insights for how do we keep this moving forward, or what have you seen as ways to keep it moving forward? Whoever wants to go first, just unmute yourself.
Deb, I'll jump in right quick and we'll rotate since we got started in this way. So quickly, I'll just say creativity, innovation. I mean, the way that we've seen, I believe, the challenge continue to have an impact, continue to have traction gain momentum in different places is the people being really creative in reference to the challenge. And it's work. I mean, I think Deb and I can attest to that. It's not just an easy thing to come together and say, I'd like to do 21 things in a row, because it does take work and effort to be um, um, uh, uh, creating things that are able to appeal to a diverse audience of people, a diverse group of learners, because some people like the music, some people like the short videos, some people like the short articles. So I think that's the piece that I see that at least inspires me as an educator, as a learner, is almost every challenge can be unique, can be different because of the innovation, because of the creation.
Thank you so much, Deb.
Yeah, and I was thinking, the answer is in the way you've titled it this year. It's from me to we. I think what keeps people in it is the relationships that you build. So if you're just taking the challenge, you're going to meet people, which is great, like-minded people. And, we live in a culture that wants us to tell us that we're individuals, that we need experts to come from down high and give us information. And in fact, we're at our best when we're collaborating with one another. And as Dr. Moore is saying, when we tap into our own creativity. And so the first time you take the challenge, you're participating, you're going to meet some people. Once you've taken it, though, most people will say, "Ooh, I want to co-create one." I've co-created one with my family members. So it's a great vehicle that you can just grab a group of people and use your collective wisdom and your collective curiosities. What do you all want to learn about? And it's a group learning and a group connecting project. I've been thinking a lot about the idea of reciprocity, which in nature we know no food would grow if the principles of reciprocity weren't operating in the land and in the environment. And I feel like white supremacy power completely disrupts reciprocity amongst us human beings. And in my worldview, humans are a part of nature. And I think that every time we connect and we create together and we think together and we problem solve together, we're firing up some of our natural wiring to be connected. So I think that's the juice. The process is the product in a way.
We are indeed better together. And thank you so much for those insights. Now's the time if you want to raise your hand or put a question in the chat. Debbie and Eddie are willing to take a few questions from the audience if you have those. I don't see everyone on the screen, but I'm sure if you're raising your hand between Shane and I, or speak up, take yourself off mute. Any questions? All right, well, seeing none at the moment, let me just check. Yeah, so in terms of as we move forward then, please, if you do have questions, Debbie and Eddie are here. I know it's not a small, intimate group chat, so you might not want to ask, but we really welcome them. But in the meantime, Shane, if you can put up the next slide, we'll just give a few reminders for the challenge in terms of checking out. Once you sign in for the challenge, you'll get some pre-work, and that really is optional. You do not have to complete it, but I can tell you it has a lot of foundational materials. And when I used to use this with my students at University of New Hampshire, they really found the pre-work helped to ground them and sort of set the stage. There's also an extensive glossary of terms so that we're on the same page as we mentioned different terminology. So the pre-work is indeed optional, but it does position you to be able to do the other readings with a little more ease and insight. you'll also during the pre-work stage have a chance to reflect on what are some of your goals as an individual. And it's thinking about what is it that I want for me, but also what is it that I want for the me to help with the we. So whatever your goals are, those are yours. And sometimes when we write them down and then have a chance to reflect during the challenge, which we're encouraging, and of course, we're encouraging our Friday workshops to be able to come together in community. And then also, as Alex also mentioned, life gets busy. Every so often, you can't get to the challenge. Somebody has an earache, somebody has a grant due. It happens. That does not preclude you from being successful. You can decide to eliminate that day, take the weekends. One of the reasons the feedback was, oh my goodness, there's so much material. So you have the weekends to sort of play catch up, give yourself grace. Of course, trying to move in every day does help with the continuity, but please, if life happens in our adult worlds with family and situations, it is fine to give yourself that grace that you need. We've left enough time here. Are there any questions you have operationally about the challenge itself? How's it going to work? Because for some of you who are new, there might be just some lingering questions, but don't leave. Don't leave yet. We're going to have a poll in a second that really helps us shape next year's challenge. So Shane, are you seeing any questions in the chat? All right.
No
Well, this is
questions.
good. Thank you for that nice note that this this was an inspiring intro. That's great. But what I want to do next is Shane's going to put up a poll for us. So we have just a few questions for you to help us shape. Okay, so there is a question. Wait a second. I'm trying to time how much budget for my team. We are a nonprofit. You know, it's as much or as little, but I think that it's at least a half hour, and some of them it would be more. But you can also decide how much you want to do. I'll ask Karen. We usually give somewhere between 30 or so minutes, but because there's lots of materials, you might later dig in deeper, or you may as a team decide this is the one resource we want to look at as a team, and then spend more time on your own. So sometimes it does depend on the day of the week. You do not have to do every resource there. There are really ways to engage it all different ways. As Dr. Eddy said, you know, some of it's art, some of it's music, some of it's reading. So Karen, do you want to weigh in on that time estimate I'm giving?
I think it is, well, it depends. I mean, we all read, we all engage differently. So it certainly could be 45 minutes. It can be 2 hours, depending on, again, how much you want to get engaged. We do identify 3 things at the beginning, and we have added more to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and that is a choice of the group. You could identify one of the readings or one of the videos for your team to focus on, and that would be a rich dialogue for you to come back. That's one way. If there's one of you serving as the leader, that's what you could do.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, and so yes, we will be sending the pre-workout before, so it will still be coming. Okay, so let's as the poll. Currently, you're planning to do this individual. Can you let us know, as you're planning to do the challenge today, are you thinking about it as an individual or as part of a group? And then if you are doing the challenge as a group, what's the approximate size? It just helps us to get a sense of what seems to be working for people and who's participating. So you know, you're not locked into this. If you, after you hearing this, you say, ooh, I'm gonna make this an idea that our Friday lunches are gonna be this, or our Monday lunches, whatever. So if you can answer that, we'll see how these come out.
And Joanne, Dr. Eddie Moore has his hand up too.
Good, Dr. Moore, thank you.
Okay, let's see if I can take this thing down now. Okay, great. All right.
Go for it.
I don't remember if we did this, Karen, Joanne, and talked about one of the newest things I think we incorporated after some while was the facilitation guide, the facilitation tool, which is simple: triangle, circle, square. And so I just want to emphasize that because sometimes it can be overwhelming for people to think, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can facilitate this tough conversation. I don't know what to ask. I don't know how to get it started. So we really want to encourage you to think about the triangle, circle, square, because it's really simple. And I found really easy as a way to follow up whatever the micro action or activity is. Triangle is three things that come up. Circle, anything that's circulating inside, that's stirring you up. A little Bob Marley there, stirring it up. And square is just anything that hits you in the heart. You know, I forget who sang this song, "Shot to the Heart." Who's to blame? Something like that, you know. Anyway, that square is, if anything, just square it up with you. So if all else fails, you're not sure what to ask after the activity, triangle, circle, square is a good facilitation tool to consider. That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Perfect,
you.
perfect.
As you
And
do that, share
I
that.
just patched in the link to it.
As you share
Oh,
that,
good.
Eddie, Dr. Eddie, it really isn't being a facilitator, it's being a leader. You kind of, if you think about, I always think about the orchestra, and we have different instruments, and we're leading from any chair. So in that, you are just creating the space. And you'll find that with the discussion guide, that it gives you some tips on leading a conversation, just making it possible for everyone's voice to be heard, everybody to share where they are.
And we do have,
When they
which
are.
we were gonna close with, we have a discussion leaders workshop next week, the 14th. So there's two opportunities. You could either do it in the morning, 10 to 12:30, or in the afternoon, 1:30 to 4, totally free. It's a discussion leaders workshop to help you do those kinds of group activities. I just have to speak debt of gratitude to Debbie and Eddie for joining us, to the team that helped put this together, to UNH and the Sustainability Institute. This will be available, this recording. And we are indeed better together, caring together, transforming together, moving from me to we. So thank you all for coming. This is an hour of your time, and we so value it, and spread the word. And thank you so much. And looking forward to support you in any way possible. So with that, I guess we're just at the hour. So thank you.
Please